What's up, everybody? I hope you're feeling healthy today. Where I live, we're getting snow again. It keeps warming up, and then it keeps snowing, and again, and again. And you know what else? I'll get excited when I think I post a good episode, or if an episode has a cool title, I'll think people will definitely check this one out. And then I'll look back a couple hours after posting it, and I'll have like 0 views, maybe 2 views if I'm lucky. There's somebody out there who views my show every morning when I post it right at 4 a.m. So, whoever you are, seriously, thank you. That's really cool that you're getting up at 4 a.m. with me every day. I wake up right at 4. So that's pretty cool. I love getting up early, get a chance to drink some coffee, play with your dog, just wake up slow and really get into the day and just try to get your anxiety in check, before things really start getting going. I like to walk and move around a lot in the morning. I think it's really important to put some healthy habits into a routine and stick to that routine. So, anyways, I'll look back several weeks after I post an episode that I thought personally was really cool, and it'll finally have some views. Typically no more than 10, which is why some of you have probably noticed I pump out a lot of content. So, there's multiple ways to get views, right? It could just be by having an awesome video and getting a ton of views, or you could just post a ton of videos and those few people who are watching you, as long as they keep watching, those views add up. So quantity over quality. Over time, though, I'm hoping to shift to more quality over quantity. And something else I've noticed about doing these podcasts, which I already knew going into it that this would be the case. And if you haven't noticed, I've been playing a lot with different titles and different thumbnails and things like that. Well, the one thing that has jumped out, every time I put Trump in the title, those are the best videos. They get the most views, the most likes, the most dislikes. I think they're the only ones that have gotten a comment. So Trump, I should start talking more about Trump. Why do you think the media talks about him nonstop? But anyways, I've been working on this episode throughout this whole week. It's actually 3:31 as I'm writing this portion of this segment. And for those of you who are in sales and business, maybe even personal trainers out there, I always saw personal training as part sales, part training personally. But a lot of companies are subscription-based services nowadays. So 3:31 is a big day, right? It's always a big day for subscription-based companies, being that it's the last day of the first quarter. So if you're in sales, accounting, other business type positions, I hope you get to chill a little bit this weekend. I'm sure you earned it. It is finally Saturday when I'm actually recording this video. Thank God. It was a great week. I finished the quarter out strong, but I definitely worked hard this week. Not that I don't every week, but So I've also been sharing some fitness stories the last few episodes, and we're going to check another one out at the end of today's episode. So make sure you stay with me. We're definitely jumping into another tough to talk about topic today. But, speaking of health related topics and speaking of a podcast, I've mentioned I'm a Joe Rogan fan, and the other day he retweeted a post that Sagar from Crystal and Sagar put out about an ICU nurse taking some required training, and she shared it on Twitter. And the question she shared was, obesity is the result of eating and not exercising, true or false? The nurse got it wrong for saying true. This is why I'm really struggling to respect our educators and value our doctors right now. It's just one of many reasons. There's a lot of them. But this is why I don't care whether or not you went to school right now. It just all feels like bullshit nowadays. Whether or not you went to Harvard or you're a high school dropout, if all you do is lie, then what does it matter? You say it's genetics. Well, the reason you're predisposed to being overweight is because your mother overate before, or maybe her mother did before her. Somebody did. There's plenty of research out there. So yes, you are more likely to be obese if your mother was before and or during pregnancy. But, that's science. A lot of people like to talk about the science instead of science. Anyways, I can't believe we're at a point where a medical professional is being told that obesity is not the result of somebody's choices and habits. And then you have MSNBC saying fitness people are right wing. Jesus. MSNBC also did an interview this week with a kindergarten teacher about Florida's 1557 bill. The teacher said he was upset because he can't tell his kids what he did over the weekend, or in other words, he can't tell his kids his partner is a man. However, this is not true. This teacher could still tell his kids what he did over the weekend if he wanted to. And I couldn't help thinking about one, I never had a teacher tell me that or what they did over the weekend or tell me about their partners. And if they did, it was in the flow of class somehow, and it definitely never stood out. And I definitely don't recall asking or anybody else asking the teachers what they did with their partner over the weekend. And if you recall the first American Societal Conundrum episode, we did discuss Lia Thomas, and I expressed my concerns, but also that we should continue being patient and learn as much as we can before letting ourselves form too strong of opinions right now. And I still feel that way now, as I do on the topic coming up here today on race relations. I just wanted to kind of remind you of what we discussed in the last, in part one of the American Societal Conundrum episode. And, even though I'm trying really hard not to form really strong opinions, when I hear teachers say ridiculous things like that, it's like, dude, I know you read that bill and you know what the F you're saying. And why is MSNBC running with stories like that? And it's so weak. Like, everybody knows it's just a lie. So I don't know. Anyways, but real quick, did you hear about the school nurse who was suspended for posting and blowing up a school for having an 11-year-old on puberty blockers? So basically, and I hate to, you know what? I'm not even going to use her name because I don't want to do that. This nurse, she was 77 years old. So, she's been around, and she's probably got to that point of her life where she's like, fuck it. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say what I really think and how I really feel. And who knows, at 77, she may be working because she wants to work. She may not have to. So she was suspended by a public school after she posted comments containing specific and private details about students, which we'll get into that. So the post came to the attention of officials at Richard J. And I'm not even going to use the school's name either. I don't want to, I'm not going to do that. So the post came to attention of officials after the school's mother of one of the 11-year-olds mentioned she saw a post online about her daughter. And basically she said, teachers are spending, and this, by the way, this is the post from the nurse, teachers are spending 37 hours a week influencing our children, not necessarily teaching our children what you think is being taught. I have an 11-year-old female student on puberty blockers and a dozen identifying as non-binary, all but 2 keeping this a secret from their parents. And the school superintendent mentioned that in a statement that she's condoning these comments and these remarks by this nurse. And the nurse remains suspended pending an investigation by the school district into her Facebook comments. So I'll just say I don't like any of this. The nurse should have never put this 11-year-old on blast like that. If she had a problem, and let's say the 11-year-old parents really doesn't know that their daughter was on puberty blockers, then yeah, I think that warrants telling the kid's parents, but not like this. The school, what role are they playing in this? How the hell are you not going to tell a kid's parents about something like this? This is exactly why places like Florida and now Arizona and many others are putting laws into place to prevent these type of things. It's all wrong, man. But seriously, why do some people honestly think it's okay not to involve the parents? What is the end goal of this? What is it that they think they're going to accomplish here? A more open society, a more gender fluid society, which means denoting or relating to a person who does not identify themselves as having a fixed gender? Lots of speculation out there. I don't know the answer or have an idea at this time to what the F is going on. All I know is that some people really want and are trying really hard to push the kids into some sort of, being gender fluid. And, then we had a medical student placed on leave of absence recently because of a tweet suggesting she literally injured one of her patients over a diss. So some guy started laughing at this person for wearing a badge that read she, her, and I guess this guy said, well, what else would you be? And he started laughing at her. So she basically missed this guy on purpose and stabbed him in his arm while she was trying to draw blood. So this is why I say to be patient right now. Let these things process. Don't laugh at people for how they want to identify. We must all recognize that there's a lot of varying opinions and feelings. It's imperative that we remain polite and friendly with each other and also continuing being professional. There's a lot of things that I would like to say, and that why it took me all week to write out this show. And as I'm reading the things that I'm writing, there's all these other things that are across my mind that I want to add to this, but I'm trying not to run off on all these tangents, because honestly, that's when I start stuttering a lot and saying ums and and likes. And I'm trying to be more fluid with this myself. I hate to use that term right after we talk about gender fluid, but I'm trying to be smoother, we'll say. I'm trying to not say, and I keep saying that as I'm going off script here. So anyways, like I said in the other American Societal Conundrum episode, personally, I don't care how somebody wants to identify, and I don't care what they do with their bodies. Where it gets dicey for me is when you hide things from parents and when you bring sports and kids into the mix. That's where I'm like, yo, I think we need to back up a second. Hold your foot on that brake for a little bit while we work through this. Are we really beyond the point of working through things, or at least publicly? What entertainment value does agreeing with somebody even have, which is really sad, right? It's the shouting matches and the raw emotion that gets people to tune in. Maybe that's why my show sucks so bad. I'm trying not to let my biases completely take over, but at the same time, share my opinions, as this is opinion analysis essentially, but also being conscious of the fact that I'm still trying to wrap my head around a lot of these societal conundrums of 2022 myself. So with all that said, as all these other thoughts and things that I really want to say are bouncing around in my brain, I'm just going to keep this going, because we got our next societal conundrum, and it is a big one, and we got a lot coming up here. So this is another one that gets people all worked up and tends to get emotional responses from many people, like Jon Stewart most recently. How many of you, like me, was a big Jon Stewart fan? And how many of you, like me, wonder what the heck is happening to Jon Stewart right now? When he got everybody talking about the Wuhan lab, I thought, okay, still same old dude, but boy, was I wrong. I wonder if he needs money. Sincerely, I wonder. Seriously, because he's starting to sell snake oil with the rest of them, and I just feel like it's because he needs ratings. Like, it doesn't go along with his character historically, in my opinion. I don't know the guy. How would I know? But from just watching him over the years, that's what it feels like to me. He should have stayed away. He got a new show on Apple. You probably know it, but good chance you don't listen to it. He's doing well, but he's not doing as well as you would think. And I think that's because he's finally jumping on these progressive bandwagons, spewing out all this controversial opinions, and then attacking those who disagree. He's getting as much heat as Will Smith right now, or at least, the channels that I follow. And I do try to go outside my channels, and I'm pretty confident he's taken a lot of heat for this. And now, that clearly, in my opinion, demonstrates the point I'll try to make at the end of the segment. But even if you agree with Jon Stewart on this issue, and you might, it's very possible a lot of people do, it should be obvious to you that so many people still disagree. So who's right? Are white people racist in America for simply being white or not? Are all American institutions racist, or is that a thing of the past? A quick point I want to make before recapping what happened on the Jon Stewart show. One of the guests Jon Stewart had, Lisa Bond, said she doesn't include white men in her conversations about race because white men have had hundreds of years to do something about it, forgetting that only half of our country actually fought to keep slavery in place. And going all the way back to the forming of our country, we had conversations then about slavery and how it was wrong. And those conversations had been going on all the way up until the Civil War. So you can't say our entire country's always been racist, because we have not. We have always had a portion of our country acknowledging and knowing and trying to prevent slavery. So it's tough. So back to the script. Yes, it's true. We've had a lot of racism and a lot of racist and racism, but even back then, not even everybody was racist. Not every white man was racist. So to imply we are now makes no sense to me. And for Lisa Bond to exclude half of the population, or we'll say a little more than a third, because white people make up about 70% of our population. So, cut that in half. White men probably make up about a third. What makes you any better? Or is that not as bad as racism? An honest question. What makes a white woman any better than a white man? Every white man knows behind a racist man is a racist woman, just like behind every good man is a good woman. You want to throw a patriarchy at me? Then do it. We'll debate that. And I'll use people like David Buss's work to show you how the so-called patriarchy, if it's true, if it's anyone's fault, it's actually more women's than men. Though I'm not even ready to believe in such a thing like a patriarchy personally. If it is true, you still need to prove it to people like me, because right now others are starting to prove it to be untrue. And sorry, last thing, and then I'm going to get to this article. Stewart and many others will say things like we need to educate these people and we have to show them what they're wrong about, but then they refuse to look at it from any other point of view that others try to tee up to them. Why would we listen to your opinion? And that's all this stuff is. This is just opinions. When you won't even listen to somebody else's opinion without interrupting them and saying things like, you motherfucker, like Jon Stewart did in his recent episode. Or saying, well, that's just semantics when you don't know how to respond to somebody. If you truly believe you're right, then keep trying to show people and teach people. Part of being a teacher is adapting and finding multiple ways to educate, because not everybody learns the same. Trust me, I know. I have ADHD and I'm dyslexic. Teachers didn't know it to me in elementary school. They literally had me scrub our hallways with toothbrushes. Anyways, and right now, those advocating for every white man and institution to be racist in 2022, I'm sorry, but it's not working. You can't force people to think what you want to think or how you feel without actually giving us real hard evidence and facts and statistics and data to support your argument. All right. Now my opinions are starting to take over. It was really dry outside and I did some extra walking with my dog. Sorry, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. All right, here we go. So let's get into this article that basically sums up what happened on Jon Stewart's show the other day. I found an article that wraps up what happened. So here we go. The problem with Jon Stewart has been quietly humming along on Apple TV Plus until the show decided to invite conservative pundit Andy Sullivan to discuss race and racism with an all-white panel. The recently aired episode, titled Taking Responsibility for Systemic Racism, brought together LaSalle University sociology professor Charles Chip Gallagher, Lisa Bond of Race to Dinner, a group that facilitates discussions about race over dinner, and British American blogger Andrew Sullivan. The intention was to gain insight on the topic, but ended up leading to controversial opinions and shouting matches. Stewart said his inspiration for an all-white panel came from Toni Morrison's quote from a 1993 interview with PBS. My feeling is that white people have a very, very serious problem, and they should start thinking about what they can do about it. The discussion started off with Gallagher and Bond talking about the structural and emotional reasons behind the term white privilege and how it upsets white people and how the fear of many whites have that black gain equates to white loss. Gallagher said that a significant amount of white people don't see socioeconomic status as linked to skin color, meaning that for them, race doesn't matter in getting ahead. And according to Gallagher, this is dangerous because it makes white people's privilege invisible, leading to white people to think they have earned their success in their lives rather than linking their privilege to what happened 50, 100, 200 years ago. Bond, whose organization Race to Dinner was described in New York Magazine as a collection of affluent white women equipped with varying degrees of vanity and self-delusion, spoke next about how she was aware of her own racism. White supremacy has done such a good job of teaching us white people that racism is bad, said Bond, before sharing that as a society, white people have to start talking about how they uphold racist systems. The conversation then went downhill when Sullivan said the idea of America being a white supremacist country is possibly the most absurd hyperbole he's ever heard. Citing from his own experience as an Irish immigrant, Sullivan stated, America in 2022 is the most multiracial, multicultural, tolerant, diverse melting pot that has ever existed on planet Earth, and there is no other place on Earth even like it. That's why 86%, according to Andrew Sullivan, I don't know, I couldn't find this, I tried to fact check it, but anyways, according to Andrew Sullivan, that's why 86% of our immigrants are non-white. Do you think they want to come to a white supremacist country? So, real quick, I'm actually really shocked that what Andrew Sullivan said, upsets people so much. This is what got Stewart all upset. And I mean, is that not true though? Like I said, I don't know about the 86%, but I know just from observation, the rest of it would appear to be true. So it just feels like these are more lies. We have, we have the saying, the truth hurts for a reason. Stewart was shocked by the response and replied that America didn't start that way for black people. What the fuck are you talking about? Stewart asked Sullivan. Sullivan asked for proof then that racist systems are at work today, saying, I don't know what these systems are. So Stewart pointed out housing, the New Deal, the GI Bill, and other historical land discriminations with inputs from his two other guests. And the talk moved back and forth between the panelists about Sullivan's most controversial points, ending with Stewart suggesting Sullivan was racist. And this is what I mean, people, by everybody constantly labeling other people. What did Sullivan actually say that would make him racist? So anyways, the panelists eventually got to what solutions could look like. Sullivan advocated for investments in childcare and education. He then noted the failure of black family structures, saying that there must be more done to help the family restructure itself. Stewart concluded the discussion by saying, to talk about race in America, we have to be open to all stripes of white people in the conversation. So, first of all, I obviously agree with Stewart's premise that we need to get all people talking. We definitely do, and this conversation was an example of why. Stewart himself doesn't appear to be open to talking to all stripes of white people himself. Stewart suggests that white people don't want to see black people succeed because they're afraid to lose something, and I can't speak for all white people, but I don't believe that to be true. I really don't. It was also suggested in the conversation that white people are upholding a racist system every day just because we once had racist institutions, and that really doesn't mean that everybody is racist today in 2022. We already went over that. So I highly doubt white people think by going to work and working hard that they're upholding a racist system. You probably don't, and I know I don't. When I work 10 plus hours a day, then I go do a second job and spend a lot of my free time working. Like right now, I'm filming this on Saturday, right? This is technically a day off. So I'm sorry, I work damn hard. And you're trying to tell me that makes me racist and makes other people racist, Jon Stewart? And let me say, I do agree with Andy Sullivan. If we really are a country of white supremacy or full of white supremacists, then why do so many non-whites come here? Why do so many people in general want to come here if we're so bad? This is a tough issue. It really is. I know we've had things like red lines, but to say every institution, every business is part of white supremacy can't be true. People like Stewart get really upset when you debate this, but it is a good debate. Both sides do have points. Nobody denies our history is full of racism, but the only thing Stewart can point to is housing, really. This is its own form of extremism coming from people like Stewart. I think Stewart forgets that 70% of America is white, and I think that should matter and should be injected into the conversation. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's blasphemy and you should explain why, but to me that matters because to me that means there will always be a level of disparity because of the differences in the sheer amount of white people versus black people or versus certain minority groups in our country. So anyways, Bond went on to say that she doesn't even engage with white men on racism as she sits there with all white men. Then Stewart calls Andrew Sullivan a racist at the end of all this. So people, do not be bullied into believing you're a white supremacist. And that's what people like Stewart are doing. He's basically trying to bully you. And this Lisa Bond is basically a bully, straight up. Stewart said he wanted to have a conversation, but instead he just ended up attacking and then called Andy Sullivan a motherfucker and then tried getting into solutions. And I'm like, how the fuck are you going to have a conversation about solutions when you can't even agree on the problem And then all you do is attack and attack and then attack more when somebody says, wait a minute, no, we're not racist. So you want me to see it your way? Then I'm going to continue to say, prove it, and stop attacking people, because you distract me with your attacks, and then we lose the point that you're trying to make. We lose topic. We ended up start shouting and arguing with each other and getting all heated and emotional. So, from what I saw, Sullivan was the only one up there who actually even offered a solution. Nobody's worried about, well, at least I'm not worried about my status, and I guess I do know people who think that way, but not that many. I really don't know that many people who are worried about their status, about black people getting jobs, about something being taken away from them. I mean, look around right now. There are so many damn jobs out there. Dude, if you need a job, go get a job. This is the perfect time. If you don't have experience and you want to try something new, you want to see if you can get your foot in the door, like seriously, this is one of the best times. So I've literally myself have volunteered my time to help my local black community with education. I'm telling you, this is where the problem starts for some black families. It starts in their homes and at school. And by the way, my stepmother in high school was a black woman, and I had 2 black stepbrothers for a long time before our parents divorced, and I still stay in touch with both of them, and so does my dad. So I do have some perspective into what it was like for them. These white people don't actually want to help black people, and I'm referring to people like Stewart. If they did, they would stop calling white people racist and just actually start helping. They just keep attacking white people and keep getting upset when people challenge them. Jon Stewart has lost his mind. I'm not saying there's not problems, because there's definitely problems. I just disagree with their approach on how to fix the problem, I guess, or how to bring the problem into conversation. And I haven't touched on this subject yet because I'm still learning, I'm still growing myself, and I acknowledge that we've had a problem with race, for a long time. And we've had racist housing programs like Red Lines and the GI Bill. And I keep saying this because I want you to know that I do see that we've had racist institutions, but I'm just saying that doesn't mean that every institution was racist, and that if you go all the way back to the founding of our country, not everybody was racist then. So how could we all be racist now? America is, saying America is simply racist because we're born in America, I just don't get it. And I also understand that black people at large are having trouble moving up in society. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around all this, like all of you. So let's keep talking about it. I'm not the smartest dude out there. You probably know something that I don't. So why don't you share that with me, and I'll share what I know with you. But this doesn't mean every white man is racist. So I'm going to keep saying that. What if it's really a combination of all these different arguments? And if you look over time, you have to be honest about things getting better. And I believe they will continue to get better for everyone in terms of race relations. The way we're approaching race relations right now in America, I just think it's going to blow up. We can't just keep having shouting matches and yelling with each other and calling each other racist and motherfuckers and, whatever else you want to throw out there. So I think that it's great we're talking about it. At least we're talking about it, right? But let's not get all upset at one another, especially since we're all agreeing that we want to find solutions that help everyone in America prosper, right? Because that's ultimately the goal. So let's put away our differences and help everybody accomplish that goal. However, I don't think that'll happen. People with this new leftist ideology just seem to want to attack regardless. This is my problem with Democrats. In one of those first episodes, I told you a couple stories about what really turned me off about Democrats in my 20s. They act like this all-knowing moral authority, yet they go around judging everybody. Everything is about race, your status, and when people push back, they get super upset and start labeling you and calling you names. They'll want to yell at you and attack you. They'll cancel you. They'll kick you out. They'll stop talking to you. They'll, block you on social media, whatever. They'll go on rants on Facebook saying, if you don't agree with me, you better delete me. How is this behavior any better? How is labeling every single white person as a white supremacist going to help anybody? Seriously. How does shouting over others as they try to make their point help anybody? Jon Stewart, man, I don't know. Also, you ever notice how conservatives will go on progressive shows? But how many progressives will go on conservative shows? Another truth is conservatives seem to be, more times than not, the ones who are actually the ones trying to have the conversation right now. If Stewart really wanted to have a real conversation, he wouldn't have said things like, "What the fuck are you talking about, you motherfucker?" So maybe he does need money. I don't know. Was this a stunt? Because that's kind of what it feels like to me, really, to get more views, knowing that at least half the country is going to disagree. So a lot of people are going to be talking about this. Like I said, everybody that I follow is talking about it. So how many people went looking for this episode and listened to it? I did. I would have never listened to it had a bunch of people not posted it everywhere. So yeah, we do need to talk about it, but only if we're going to be honest. Calling names and trying to force people to agree will just push us further away. You think our country is bad now? Raise those 70% of our population we just talked about to think they're bad, and then what? What do you really think is going to happen in 30 years when they're adults? You really think they're going to continue being cool with this? I don't. To be honest, I don't. I think they'll look around and say, fuck this. I'm not bad. You're not bad. We're just trying to live our lives. Well, all these old people are telling us what to do. And what kills me about a lot of these folks who are pushing this on us, they're not even going to be around in 30 years to see what happens. You think telling a young white man he's bad for no apparent reason other than being white will sit well? You remember that story I told you about how when I was a kid and the person that lived a couple houses down from me, his mother was one of the teachers at my elementary school. My parents weren't home a lot. My parents had a really tough marriage, and I had a pretty tough upbringing, and I can't even remember if they were still together or divorced at this time, but basically one day I was throwing rocks in our street, and she saw this, and she labeled me a bad kid and told my friend two houses down he was no longer allowed to play with me. And then she told all the teachers and all the other kids' parents, and like I got labeled as this bad kid. And then I basically went down this whole other path, all the way into high school, and I was a bad kid. I literally believed at a certain point by the time I was in like sixth grade, and I just went along with it. So I just personally, based on that experience, I think try and, even if only one school, one elementary school in the whole country is one too many, if they're actually trying to teach a white kid that he's bad because of what maybe his dad or his grandparents or, all of his ancestors before him for what they did, I just think that's seriously a recipe for disaster. I just, based on, that experience I just shared with you, like, it's just not going to sit well. So I don't know, man. It's hard to believe these things are even happening for me. We need to keep fighting the Democratic culture dominance. It seems like it's starting to wane a little bit, but we got to keep pushing. People like Daily Wire are producing media now, and they're doing movies, and now they're talking about doing children's content next year. So Timcast is trying to, get into some of those things as well. I talk about other things besides just the news on this show because I want to, bring culture from a different perspective. So we all need to participate right now. We all need to get involved. We all have to influence our culture together and let our countrymen and women know that America will not go quietly into the night. We need to put things like justice and truth back on the discussion table. Race relations is right there too. There's no doubt we need to work through this, but it will be hard. So we have to go into these conversations with mindfulness and be ready to maybe take breaks, take a walk. Maybe we should go for a walk while we have this conversation and let our anxiety ease while we're discussing these things. Maybe sitting at a panel or or over a Zoom call. Maybe these things are not the appropriate way to handle these conversations. Let's go outside and have these conversations. Let's interact with each other. Hey, let's share a meal with each other. Let's have a drink. Let's have a picnic outside. Just a suggestion. I haven't seen anybody try that yet. Instead of this Lisa Bond having these race to dinner dinners where basically just a little research I did sounds like she just has dinners with white people and like literally rants to them why they're racist. Seriously, I think that's what she does for a living. I don't know how she makes money doing that, but if she can make money doing that, I can make money doing this, I think. So Anyways, let's get into our fitness story, right? I want to finish the show with a positive. Exercise has countless benefits. Of course, there's the weight loss and muscle gains, the aesthetic changes that people tend to notice the most. Then there's the physiological advantages of better sleep, more energy, disease prevention, and enhanced immunity. Finally comes the mental side, a boost in self-confidence, a new joy for life, and even drive for stronger social connections. All these things pay off in a powerful way and come from taking it one step at a time per the daily burn. As I mentioned at the top, I'll be sharing several beautiful fitness stories with you over the next few episodes in response to MSNBC. So here is Stephanie Laska's story. Growing up, Stephanie Laska, 44, never worked out. She chose music class over PE and had Kool-Aid and Fruit Loops every day. It wasn't until her 40s, weighing around 300 pounds, that she decided that she needed a lifestyle reboot. A few simple diet changes, like dropping sugary soda and limiting beer and desserts, helped her lose 50 pounds, but she quickly hit a plateau, and she knew it was time to start moving. The details of a working out schedule stressed me out at first. When do you exercise? Who takes the kids to school? Who makes dinner? We've talked about these things on the Jay Rooney Show, by the way. After a few months of putting it off, she decided to just walk. Not long after, she was walking her typical route and she was going around this tennis court. She decided to pick it up a little bit and run the full length of one side. Then she ran 2 sides, then 3, then a full loop, until she ran her first mile in 2014. I was keeping it a secret at this point, and I remember taking my kids to the park one day. They were on their bikes and got far ahead of me. So I decided to run to catch up, Laska recalls. The look on my daughter's face when she saw me running was like Santa Claus. That's when Laska started taking her 1-mile jogs up to a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and eventually she did an entire marathon. Laska ran her first 26.2 miles in 2015, scoring first place in her age group. She completed her second this last fall in New York City as a member of the Power Bar Clean Start team, just 1 year after having major surgery. What motivated me, as in Laska, to keep going was that it wasn't as hard as I made it out to be. Laska ended up losing another 140 pounds and has kept it off for years now. People tend to make these huge decisions like joining a gym or signing up for boot camp, but I just made a tiny choice to walk around my block. I always try to remind myself that those little decisions snowball, positive or negative. The idea of taking life one step at a time has led Laska to make more time for herself and say no to responsibilities that don't improve her well-being. This has also improved her relationships with her husband and her kids, and even brought on a promotion at work, she said. People always ask what the hardest thing about losing weight, and she responded with that it was just saying no to buttery popcorn at the movies, Laska said. Exercise for her is not about running a marathon, it's about those daily decisions to just go outside. Man, I love this story. I really do. So I love this story for many reasons. Mainly, I love how she talks about starting with tiny steps. For those of you thinking about starting to exercise, all you have to do is go outside. Just go for a little walk. It's that simple, and you'll figure it out from there. Every so often, challenge yourself to do a little bit more. I also love how she realized through this process that she needed time for herself and that she's not letting responsibilities that don't contribute to her health upset her. I also loved how she wondered how to fit this in, only because I remember writing a paper on how we turn to fitness to become more healthy, but sometimes once you really get into it, missing a workout or struggling to find the time can in itself create a tremendous amount of stress. So you have to learn how to manage it, and why I'm such a big believer in the routine of life and just making sure that fitness is part of that routine. So, listening to her go through a lot of the same struggles I did when I first started working out in my early 20s, it's just really cool to see people find their ways through it as I did. So she clearly found mindfulness through her journey as well. I'll be sharing another fitness story with you in the next episode. So it is the weekend. If you're in the Midwest and it's snowing on you, there's no excuse. Get out there, get outside, go for a walk. Let's make healthy choices today. Let's make it an American day. Jay Rooney Show.